Well, hey, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for yet another edition of the Lives and Lessons Learned of 100 Christians. Today, we're doing a favorite of mine, John Wimber. He was a transformative American pastor, musician, author, and theologian whose improbable journey from rock and roll excess to charismatic renewal ignited the Vineyard movement and reshaped modern evangelicalism. Dubbed the fountainhead of the third wave, Wimber bridged traditional churches with supernatural faith, emphasizing intimacy with God, healing, and power evangelism. He was born in Kirksville, Missouri, to an alcoholic father who abandoned the family on the day of John's birth. And Genevieve, his resilient mother. Wimber endured a pagan upbringing, as he said, marked by poverty, rejection, and instability. Raised without faith, he channeled his energies into music, becoming a talented multi-instrumentalist, proficient in keyboards, drums, and production in his early 20s. His secular career peaked in the 1960s as a session musician and producer in Los Angeles, co-founding the iconic Righteous Brothers. If you've heard of them, he was part of the Righteous Brothers, and contributing to hits like You've Lost That Loving Feeling, which you probably know that song. His life of heavy drinking, drug use, and chain smoking epitomized rock's hedonism, but a profound conversion at age 29 in 1963 at a Bible study shattered it all. I was a beer-guzzling, drug-abusing pop musician, he quipped, crediting his wife Carol's influence for drawing him to Christ. Married in 1956, they raised 3 children, Sean, John, and Heather, while navigating early Christian zeal. Wimber devoured the Bible, reading it up to 10 times a year. He quit smoking and drinking overnight. He joined a church, the Yorba Linda Friends Church, where he was ordained as a minister in 1965. Initially skeptical of the more charismatic gifts, his theology evolved through academia and ministry, earning a master's in theology from Fuller Seminary. He lectured there on church growth, consulting over 2,000 churches worldwide and authoring books like Church Growth, Strategies from the Book of Acts. Yet, spiritual dryness plagued him until 1970 when Carol's charismatic renewal sparked his own encounter with the Holy Spirit. Hosting home Bible studies for disillusioned Christians, he witnessed healings and prophetic words, birthing the Yorba Linda Vineyard, which was a church, under Calvary Chapel's umbrella. By 1982, tensions over the supernatural emphasis, Wimber aligned with the Vineyard Network, renaming his church the Anaheim Vineyard Christian Fellowship. Under his leadership, it ballooned from 30 people to over 10,000, spawning the global Vineyard movement, which is now over 2,400 churches. His global influence peaked around the 1980s, 90s. He taught at Fuller's seminary course on signs and wonders. He authored some seminal works and led conferences, drawing just thousands of people. His Vineyard emphasized seeker-friendly worship, co-founding Vineyard Music, low-key miracles, which is interesting, and equipping laity for ministry. Controversy has rose. Critics cited his association with the Kansas City Prophets, and there was some strange stuff about all that. But his humility shown. I'm just change in God's pocket. He can spend me however he wants. Health woes shadowed his later years. In 1986, he had a heart attack, compounded by compulsive overwork, led to a 1995 brain hemorrhage and partial paralysis. He's semi-retired, but continued teaching until his death from another hemorrhage at age 63. His wife's memoir, The Way It Was, and Connie Dawson's 2020 biography, John Wimber, His Life and Ministry, immortalized him as a, quote, fool for Christ. So, what can you learn from his life? First off, pursue intimacy with God over religious routine. Wimber's roots and post-conversion dryness taught that heartfelt relationship trumps the disciplines. Vineyard worship fostered being with God through extended praise, not performance. Do the stuff, equip believers for miracles. Skeptical at first, Wimber urged churches to pray boldly for healing and gifts weekly, not just in special services. After hundreds of failures, Breakthrough followed obedience. So yeah, he was somebody who was not shy about praying for people's healing. And he tells some stories. He did it hundreds of times before anything happened. But then things started to happen. Power evangelism, blend word and deed. From rock venues to the streets, Wimber modeled evangelism as loving actions, like healing and giving encouraging prophetic words, confirming the gospel, attracting seekers without the hype, which is a big part of it. Embrace brokenness and humility in leadership. Haunted by rejection, he led with wit and vulnerability, viewing himself as God's change in his pockets. The different controversies that he ran across taught grace amid controversy. Worship as the engine of renewal. A musician at heart, he pioneered intimate, spirit-led songs that drew non-churchgoers. Vineyard Music's legacy shows praise releases God's presence. The way in is the way on. Simple obedience sustains revival. All right. His vineyard endures, challenging the church to do the stuff as Jesus did. Yeah. He got saved and went to this church and read in the book of Acts about all the miracles that were happening. And he said, when do we get to do that stuff? And because the church he was a part of didn't really emphasize the ability to pray for people like that. And so it says, when do we get to do the stuff? And then when they said that we don't really do that stuff anymore, he famously said, I gave up drugs for this. So, it's an interesting character. All right. Thanks so much. Take care. God bless. Bye.